Hi, Megan. Good to see your face. Hi, Lisa. Hi, Connie.
All right. Hi,
Okay.
everyone. I am Dr. Megan, and I'm very excited to have a special event for all of you with one of our Do Better Collective members, Jared Zertucci. I'm going to do a quick introduction of Jared, and then we will let him do this wonderful webinar for you all on kind extinction. So, Jared is a trauma-informed behavior analyst, parent coach, and practitioner of neuro-linguistic programming. He might already be planning to do this, but I'm super curious for folks who are attending live how many are familiar with NLP. So feel free to drop a Y in the chat if it's something you're familiar with. I'm super excited about that, like that he's bringing that expertise to the table today. He brings a deeply personal understanding of what it means to break generational cycles. As the founder of Parent from Love, Jared blends his background in behavior analysis with neuroscience, attachment theory, and mindful coaching to support families navigating complex behaviors with compassion and clarity. His approach is rooted in lived experience, raised by parents who modeled unconditional love and emotional accountability. Jared saw firsthand how intentional parenting can disrupt patterns of trauma. This foundation inspired his belief that good parenting can be learned and healing is possible for every family. Since 2012, Jared has supported hundreds of families across diverse backgrounds, helping children on the autism spectrum build skills while guiding parents to shift from reactive strategies to regulated connection-based responses. His practice weaves together evidence-based behavior interventions with the latest in brain science and emotional attunement. Whether it's supporting emotional regulation, addressing escape maintain behavior, or helping caregivers get unstuck from old patterns, Jared's message is clear. When parents grow, kids thrive. He is currently pursuing his doctorate in psychology while continuing to coach families, train professionals, and share tools that affirm both science and humanity. Jared's work centers around one core idea: unconditional love is the most powerful gift you can give your child and yourself. So, welcome, Jared. Thank you so much for being here and for presenting on this very important topic for us today.
Thank you so much, Dr. Megan. Wow, what an introduction. This has been a dream of mine for a while now. And I just wanted to say thank you so much, everybody, for making it. And I'm so happy to have met Dr. Megan and be a part of the Do Better Collective and all the wonderful things that the compassion, the love-based strategies that are part of the ABA conversation now, and we have a ways to go still, and this is one step towards that direction. So you've all read this now, and I just want to ask and just kind of reflect everybody on like what brought you into ABA, right? Why is it something that we gravitated to in our lives. For me personally, it's the compassion that I have. It's the kind of intuitive abilities to connect and build rapport with my clients that I love doing, and with my therapists, right? That um, with families, that to me is the heart of why I am in ABA. And so I just want us to kind of remind ourselves of that. And right now we can, if you're able to close your eyes, I have these really picturesque, beautiful pictures to kind of create a more kind of regulated space, safe space, brave space, however you want to call it. And right now, I'm just going to close my eyes and I'm going to guide you in one of the ways that I've learned to really become present and regulated. And that is putting your focus right on kind of your prefrontal cortex. The prefrontal cortex, if you can, just put your attention on that part. We use a lot of that part of our brain throughout our day. And so right now we can just acknowledge it, let it know, thank you for, giving us the thoughts and the planning and organization that it gives us. And so now that we have our attention there, let's take a nice deep breath in. And now let's go ahead and put our focus on the back of our neck where our brainstem is. That's where our parasympathetic part of it, part of our nervous system is. And so you might like become familiar with more saliva coming out of, and into your mouth, maybe a slower heart rate, but really breathe and attend to that parasympathetic part of our bodies. We're just going to do 2 more deep breaths in at your pace, just to gain some more regulation, more grounding. I'm going to do my last breath here. Okay. Thank you for joining me in on that. Okay. So we're going to go to who is this guy? uh, Megan did a wonderful job of introducing me. I want to focus on the underlying part there because I've been a BCBA for a while, and in the ABA field for a while, and it wasn't until I started wanting to be a parent coach where I found these 2 words, co-regulation and validation, and how they fit into behaviorism. I had my own internal conflict as to, well, gosh, there's these interpersonal neurobiology sciences, kind of neuroscience, kind of a new age, new wave of interpersonal, uh, neurobiology and relationship making. And where does this fit in behaviorism? Until I found kind extinction, which was a study done by Tarbox, as we're going to dig into today, in 2023. Okay, so I'd like you to meet Courtney. I don't know if you know Courtney Tarbox, but this is her story that I'm relaying here. She's a BCBA and a mom of a 3-year-old daughter. One evening, she's trying to get her daughter to brush her teeth, and her daughter had a different plan for that night, though. So she threw herself onto the floor and screamed. We're all familiar with that as RBTs or BCBAs. Courtney put her BCBA hat on and thought, okay, I just need to follow through with this demand, right? Well, as she puts it, she didn't feel right to her. Her heart wanted to scoop her daughter up and give her a hug, but her brain wanted to implement escape extinction with her daughter, which felt cold and disconnecting. Was there a more compassionate approach to this, she thought? Well, her and her husband, Jonathan, talked about it, and this internal conflict she became aware of it, and she had an aha moment. What if we can have effective extinction, i.e., the behavior stops, and be compassionate? That was 6 years ago. And 6 years ago. And today, Courtney and Jonathan Tarbox are implementing kind extinction, and they researched and published a paper on its effectiveness and the social validity of it. So today, we get to learn about kind extinction, review the results of their study, learn how to apply it today, and discuss and answer any questions. So, first, let's define compassion. And this is our second core principle in our ethics code, right? So, treat others with compassion, dignity, and respect. Compassion is defined by Taylor, LeBlanc, and Nozick as converting empathy into behavior aimed at the alleviating of suffering or distress of others. Linehan defines compassion as behavior maintained by the removal, mitigation, or prevention of distress for others. There's this kind of common theme here: distress, preventing distress for others, minimizing negative reinforcement, punishment, and extinction while maximizing positive reinforcement. Now, Does compassion mean minimize extinction as well? Let's review what extinction is. Reinforcement. It's reinforcement of a behavior that's discontinued, right? So as a result, the frequency of that behavior decreases in the future. Is it aversive? Well, depends on how we implement it. Ignoring the behavior can also be experienced by the child as being ignored, which is totally aversive. We kind of tell ourselves, oh, we're ignoring the behavior when in reality, the learner, the child is being felt as like being ignored, right? So these are just some kind of heart-wrenching pictures there to kind of give you the picture. Yeah, ignoring or even forcing, right? Anyone to do anything physically is not okay. Okay, so but extinction should be implemented functionally, right? So if the function of a behavior is escape maintained, then the extinction should be more towards the function of escape, or if it's access to tangible, more towards the function of access to tangible. Yes, somewhere along the way, and this is my reality. I don't know if this is everyone else's here, but a heart-wrenching, burnout causing, and unnatural internal conflict was passed down. And that's where the brain goes against the heart. And the brain says, well, I don't want to shake this up to be an attention function. And the heart says, when a human is in distress, I want to help them alleviate it. So, what about being compassionate towards the learner? Well, right, we're going to go back to the definition of compassion. So it's the distress of others, right? Alleviating the distress of others, preventing the distress of others. Can we be effective and compassionate? Yes, we can. According to this study, we can totally be effective and compassionate. This is just one study. Is it ethical? We want to use the least restrictive procedures. We want to minimize the use of physical guidance and treat others with respect. Heck yes, it is. So here's just a screenshot of what the article looks like. So it's a compassion-based procedure. So this is I'm going to review what happened in the study. So when a child wanted something while doing a task, and this she called it a escape to tangible. Researchers withheld the tangible, continued with the demand in place, and offered vocal acknowledgement and or physical comfort. So this looked like, okay, like the operational definition of this would be getting down to a child's eye level, offering physical touch. Sometimes, a little one or a person would be wanting the physical touch. Others, not so much, depending on, uh, you know, kind of the state that they're in. Label the child's emotion. Also label what the upsetting circumstance is. So in this case, I know you want screen time, and right now we're doing homework right now. I know that's frustrating. And then here we got a validating statement. This is just an example. I know you want to go on screen time right now and are super frustrated you can't have it. I don't like when I can't get what I want to. I know it's hard to wait. Let's do 5 more problems and then we can hit the screen time. Okay, so now I want to talk about like a kindness assessment, right? Not everybody uh, wants to be told what emotion they're feeling, or not everybody wants a physical hug. It's kind of like the love languages deal, right? Everyone has their own way of, oops, my bad, of like kind of feeling kindness or feeling compassion. And so one of the things that you can take data on is, do they move towards you when you do that or away? Did it worsen the emotional response? And so we're going to go back in. Yeah, then I want to ask, this is like participation time. if you want to, I haven't really been checking the comments. So if you want to comment in there, feel free to comment in. Like, are there more examples of compassion that you can think of? One of the things that I didn't see in their study was like speaking softer in a slow kind of Mr. Rogers tone of voice. That always that can help as well. All right. Yeah. Closely observing signs of stress. Nice, Megan. Yeah. Giving more time. Turning on the lights. Love it. Yes. Really getting in tune with their sensories, right? With their uh hypersensual sensory or hyposensual. Okay. Giving space and allowing them physical distance. Yes, not signaling a block or denial. Auditory space, physical space, softening one's posture or body language. Love it. Reassuring them. I put this in, okay, another slide, but one of the things is mirroring their facial expression that can also really attune us and like allow them to feel like we're attuning with them when we have that, oh, I know, and like genuinely authentically, because I think some people can be sarcastic about it, but I mean, you can feel whether or not you're sarcastic, right? Like, oh, I know I'd want to do screen time, or I'd want to do this too. And right now we just got five more problems left to do. Yeah, reassuring them. Nice, Madison. Connie, I adjust my tone to reflect their disappointment. Yes. Yeah, I'm reflecting the tone, facial expression. Big one for my son right now. Stop talking. He hates when I talk when he's upset. Thank you. That's a definite one that I love to tell parents. Less is more. A lot of the time, less is more. Avoiding statements like "I hear you" or "I know." Our kids have learned that's just another way of no. Yeah, of way of saying no. Yes. So much participation. Oh my gosh, this is amazing. Okay, great. Um, so a lot of different ideas, right, that we can use as quote unquote arbitrary reinforcement, which is the behavioral jargon for validation and also co-regulation. Not really hit on too much with this study. It's, I mean, I definitely need to talk about co-regulation and like making sure that we are having a heart rate that is nice and slow. We're breathing, right? What else is like operationally defined as like co-regulation? Our facial expressions again can kind of match our tone of voice, can come from a place uh, of empathy and compassion. Okay, so that's co-regulation. Okay, here we go. So this is kind of like how I take data on the assessment, but also like what worked in this situation of like my current client of rigidity, right? He wants to do this, we want to do this. Um, is it validating statements? He does pretty well with deep breathing on cue, or at least modeling it, right? Because we want like less vocal, like auditory input as we can. Oh, we got a comment here. Nice. Not directing to regulate, but modeling and engaging in regulation in parallel. Yes, I love it. On the same page. The more that we can model, the more, yes, that's co-regulation in a nutshell. Thank you so much. And again, this is just kind of what I use. All right, now here's a lot of words. And I'm gonna go through it. This is tangible extinction, and this is like, for an example, when a child is told to put away a toy at bedtime, right? A child falls to the floor and cries. The expectation remains with compassion. Now, you guys, you all can like read this. I'm gonna go over an example that totally reminds me of this in my own practice, and the example is, and this is when I first started using kind extinction, right, or validating and co-regulation. So I was like, hesitant. I wasn't really sure it was going to work. Oh my gosh, I'm the expert here. Dad's right here, thinking like, what is this guy doing? This is totally different because I wasn't following through. I wasn't, um, which is basically forcing him to. Sorry, the situation is him picking my client picking up his dirty clothes and taking them to the washing machine, something that he knows he's supposed to do. Somewhere down the line, he wasn't doing it, and so I let dad know, hey, we're gonna try this intervention out. And so really what it was is I know it's scary to put your pick your clothes up and take them to the washing machine. That sounds pretty scary. Trying to get into the emotional because he was acting nervous about it. Hey, do you want a hug, buddy? And I was, kind of nudging dad to do this as well. And taking deep breaths, as kind of loud as I could, so like dad could hear it. And I feel like those are kind of like yawns. Deep breaths are somewhat contagious as well. And so what happened was, I want to say 5 minutes into this, and his son like kind of just went around the bed. He went on the floor. I remember he went onto the bed, which is where the clothes were, and he started looking at him. And again, no auditory input. Like there was a lot of silence. He knew what the demand was, and then he just picked him up and head out to the washing machine to put them away. So, that's like one example. There's been plenty more when it comes to like new foods. Again, rigidity, like wanting to do one thing and another others doing wanting needing him to do something else. So, the next one is escape extinction, and there's many phrases in here that when you first say them, it could be like, I don't, gosh, I love saying them now. Like when I first started doing it, it was like, this isn't, I don't know if this is like what, like, you know, the correct way. Cause again, I had like 10 years of ABA in me and of like thinking, oh my gosh, attention reinforcement. God, don't shape it up. Don't shape it up to be attention maintained. And then I started using them and it just felt so right. It just felt so yes, this is why I joined. This is why I signed up to be an ABA. This feels amazing. And these are great. You could like take a snapshot of the screen. These are good, phrases to use as well. Make it your own as well, make it authentic. So offering arbitrary reinforcement. Here's the data, i.e., validating statements, physical touch, not tough touch, contingent on target behavior, which in this case is escape to tangible. So as you can see, there's a decrease in tantrum. There was also, I guess, minor aggression involved too. And there was also zero extinction bursts, which, if you looked at the literature, there's not always an extinction burst. And one can, like basically like hope for the like future research studies to be able to see no extinction bursts. One thing that I thought of when watching that when had kind of thinking about this extinction versus I don't know if y'all know like the vending machine. It's kind of like the typical extinction burst example, right? You don't get the soda, you start banging on it, there's an extinction burst. Well, what if the vending machine was like, oh man, oh, I'm not working right now, oh, that's a bummer, you want me to call someone? Or there was someone close by that was like, oh man, I don't like it when vending machines don't work. That's a bummer. You probably won't do an extinction burst. Like in my head, if someone were to like understand what I'm going through, and there's that kind of interpersonal, resonation happening, there's kind of no reason for me to bang on the vending machine. Like the extinction burst wouldn't be there. So it'd be fascinating to see, further studies and if there is an extinction burst, that we don't have to have that kind of weird conversation with parents like, oh, it's supposed to get worse. What? And so there's increase in manding behavior as well, and we're gonna go over like what that kind of looks like. And so, anytime that we're decreasing a behavior, we want another behavior to increase, which is manding most of the time, like functional communication training, skills-based training. So break please, or can I have a break, depending on the learner's repertoire. So they did not prompt child to request, right? And they reinforced all requests. As you can see, there was an increase in manding behavior. Unfortunately, in this study, they did not compare it with traditional extinction. And kind of the results are there, right? Providing validation and or warm physical touch may be effective in decreasing interfering behaviors. And so future research opportunities, maybe validating doesn't cause an extinction burst, right? I just kind of went over that. How does the emotional responding change when little ones overreact? Now, I put overreact in quotes because when I was a behavior therapist, and we had a couple clients who would overreact to situations, and we would do like a no not a big deal or a big deal, right? And we kind of had like a spectrum where it was very dismissive. Now, like looking back at it, like, oh, that's not a big deal. Like your mom, or your dog going to the veterinarian, that's a big deal. That would match your response, like super dismissive. Um, what I found out was like when I have an older client who like one time was saying like, oh, I hate it when my dad does this. I hate it. Like this is like an example of this overreaction thing. Oh, I don't like it. My dad didn't. Uh, I hate when my dad does this, da, da, da. And I like my old way of doing it would be like, oh man, yeah, is that a big deal or is that not a big deal? And that wouldn't really go anywhere, to be honest. But I'm doing what my supervisor was saying. In this particular instance, I went the validation way, and I just said, "Oh yeah, I know. I don't like it when people do that either. That's a bummer, huh?" And I mean, I'd say seconds later, he was ready to go. Like we didn't have to get into a kerfluffle that like I've had in the past. What about an intention maintained behavior? Right, definitely future studies for that. I mean, I have a hunch that the differential reinforcement would be a good way to um like give the client like a little bit of attention, but also let them know, hey, you could say, hey Jared, or hey name, right? Like to do the skills based functional communication training, and then when they do it, just like, whoa, cool, party time. Or if you're that I'm gonna check the if you're that kind of person to be like, whoa, really cool attention. I'm gonna check the comment. So if that machine says something to me, it doesn't give my memo back, I might burst a little. Oh, nice. Oh, I love it. Okay, cool. I always say that little things aren't little to little people. That's right. When any of my staff say that, a learner, or yes, 100%. Mm-hmm. To validate every emotion, and because that's the reality, right? Are there any others you are thinking of and want to share when it comes to future research? I'm going to keep going on with this. So going back to the results, providing arbitrary reinforcement, i.e. genuine positive attention and emotional validation, and offering warm physical contact while implementing escape and or access to tangible extinction was an effective procedure for decreasing interfering behavior. Kind extinction may be more socially acceptable than traditional extinction, which we're going to go over here a little bit more. Implementers got to breathe a sigh of relief. I get to do this. This is great. It gave them permission to do what naturally feels right to us. And I mean, in my opinion, this is This is me kind of putting that in there, but it does definitely feel natural and intuitive. And then, yeah, and Andrea, so especially with the littles, I think people forget that forgetting their safety item at home may actually be the worst thing that has happened to them. Yes, exactly. So no, it's not always a small problem to them. I love it. Yeah, Connie. I guess be nice. All right. This is what I signed up for our ABA. Let's do this. All right. So then we're going to go over compassion over compliance. The APA states for doctors to apologize for following through with giving shots or doing kind of, intrusive types of interventions. So these are just phrases. Look, I know this is hard, and you don't want to do this right now. I'm really sorry. When you're ready, let's do the homework, or let's do these couple problems. Waiting is so tough. I don't like waiting either. My bad for making you wait. Let me know when you're ready to start this so you don't have to wait for screen time or uh, play. We can absolutely play X after we do this. Sorry for making you wait. Sorry for making you wait. Do you need help doing X? All right. So the social validity of this, as you can probably imagine, versus traditional extinction, which I said is basically ignoring or forcing someone to do something. Do the ends justify the means? When we are implementing traditional extinction, we are asking families to do something really difficult now and cause unnecessary distress in their child in hopes that it will lead to a better outcome later. Can we be equally effective while making the procedure less aversive to implement? Yes, we can. So ABA plus compassion, I just get really excited about that because yes, we all need to do this. There's many adults who are have had ABA who are telling us, "Hey, what you guys are doing is off," and it's amazing for the feedback, and we now get to do something about that. So, kind extinction is a modified procedure. Might be important to talk about compassion when talking about our procedures. And there are many others leading the way with their hearts and research and practice as a community, like the Do Better Collective. Let's keep going. Potential decision model is to minimize extinction as much as possible, increase the use of assent-based practices, decrease aversiveness of extinction, and then for partial extinction, so kind of like reinforce the precursor or low-level behavior as actual communication. uh, and so I just want to go over the compassionomics, I guess you can call it, of like what this can do to our field in general. I know when I first started using validation and co-regulation and doing kind extinction, I didn't have that internal conflict anymore. And that internal conflict really drains batteries, right? It really causes burnout, and caregiving professions offering compassion can act as a buffer against burnout and emotional exhaustion. Looking back at it, hindsight's 2020. That's definitely what was happening. Um, there's in my life, it was the burnout aspect of gosh, coming home after an extinction burst, thinking like, oh my gosh, I did something really cool, when really it was like, man, I heard that child cry for a long time, and I was just ignoring that. Like, that now I talk about like the emotions are coming up, right? And I mean, I've definitely done my work on this because it's no joke. Like this profession is a very intricate, and we are in charge of little people's and adults, right? Of like nervous systems, brains, and bodies. And so, we I to have the mirror up and really realize, oh gosh, that like ignoring because of science and just being honest with myself of, okay, this is something that I need to apologize for. This is something that I also need to forgive myself for. And so, enhance mental well-being, acts of compassion, activate the brain's reward centers, increasing happiness and life satisfaction. I'm not going to read all this. You kind of get it. Yes, compassion. It definitely feels good for you, me, and everybody around us. Now, I'm going to go into kind of the neurolinguistic programming part. I'm going to give you some evidence as to like how it works, but I would like to kind of take a kind of like a Q&A break at this point. If there's anybody who has a question or who has an example that would, you know, coincide and something that you think, a lot of people, a lot of BCBAs here, a lot of professionals and parents maybe too, that you can share with everyone. If you're brave enough to, hats off to you. You can either, come get yourself off mute or put it in the chat. But I think this is kind of a coming to terms time, and I know I'm not alone in this, and you are not either. There are some things that, maybe in the past that you didn't feel too honorable about, or too confident, or too like happy about yourself with. And so, if you're wanting to share anything, feel free to do so, or like a, a win, right? A success of like, oh, I used to do it this way, and then I'm doing a kind of extinction now, and oh my gosh, it's amazing. I'd love to hear that too. Just let it be silent for a little bit. If anyone would like to chime in, feel free to do so. All right.
Everyone's being shy.
I know, huh?
I know
Well,
based on some of the folks in here that there are people who are using, maybe they're not using kind extinction, but they're like specifically, but they're definitely using some of the things you've talked about. So we could even broaden the question maybe a little bit and say,
well, good.
is there anyone who is practicing one way and now you're doing things a little bit differently? Or even if you're still practicing in the ways that you were originally trained and you're here to learn
Hmm.
about something new, what are some ideas that are coming up for you?
Yeah. Thanks, Megan. Hey, Heather.
Um, I think one of the things, and how this plays into it, but that I've changed with is doing choice making in the midst of this. So like we can't have this right now. So we have like I've been doing a lot of like we have these three options. Like you can pick, it's your choice. You just got to tell me which one you want. Like and of those three, sometimes the one is we're doing nothing. We're just sitting and waiting until you're ready. But I think that has helped with a lot of my kids who just need that to have that advocacy for themselves. So they're making that choice. But then the extinction is still part of it because each thing has its own reinforcement, its own extinction. That we can't have these if we choose this, but it's your choice. So I think that's been helpful.
Nice. Yeah, definitely. Oh, Megan. Thanks, Heather.
Yeah, so I've been doing this, kind of practicing this way for a few years now, and I think empowering my learners to be able to, like Heather said, make choices and also let us know their preferences. I think that can go a really long way because a lot of my learners are just like, oh, I like that, even though they don't like that at all. And so giving them the language or using visual supports to help them communicate that, I think that can go a really long way. And then also focusing on that co-regulation piece of, hey, mom and dad, if you aren't calm, you're going to have a really hard time helping your kid be calm. And so teaching parents those skills as well alongside their loved one, that's what I've been doing. And I've seen really, really great results from that because no one taught us how to be calm as parents. I have an 8-year-old and I didn't learn those skills. It was like, there's happy, sad, or mad, take your pick, but
Right,
two of them
right.
are wrong. So So yeah, so teaching everyone how to, label and deal with their emotions and cope, I think can go a long way.
Love it. Yeah. Thank you, Megan. Other Megan, Calusa. Hello.
Megan Party. Um,
Megan Party.
I think I'm gonna follow up the labeling emotions a little bit. I think labeling emotions is way too big often for us to do, but we all do something. We tact, right? When we
Hmm.
like, you don't just mand when you have an
Hmm.
emotional feeling. And I think something I've been trying to work in is helping. I work with a lot of very young kids who don't have a lot of emotional language, and just like having like an icon that says that sucks, or a little
Yeah.
hamburger that they hit and
Yep.
says, I hate this, right? And like
Hmm.
a lot of they don't have the opportunity to just have like a moment outburst that we all have where we're like, grr, right? Like those are things we
Yeah.
want them to experience and to say that's how we just let it out. And it gives us the opportunity to like move on, and we can model it, but also like making it really easy for them to do what we naturally do,
Yeah.
and feel heard and validated for having like these strong emotions. um, I think is something that I'm moving towards, because I think a lot of like professionals I work with find it funny that I'm like giving them ways to be like annoying and like say things that like aren't always appropriate, but we all do it whether we admit it or not. It's just not a natural reaction, and it's better than like knocking everything off of the table or something, right? So I'm
Exactly.
that's what I'm moving towards, is the tacting part of it.
Nice. Yeah. And little people want to know what the heck's going on inside of them. I know for me, I didn't have any of that education growing up, but one of the things I tell parents that I support is like it might be different, and something that like validating statements. It didn't come like I had to kind of have a script in my head first. But once I did it, it was like my brain naturally was like, yeah, well, let's do this more. Like it didn't take that much time. And so that's and again, like our little ones want to know what is that feeling inside, and we can guess, we can estimate. It could be wrong, because when it comes to working with kiddos on the spectrum, like they sense the world totally differently. So going to a birthday party for me is exciting, to them it's nerve-wracking. And so like being open to like what different emotions can be for each scenario, right? And in the moment, like trying to label them as you see. For me, a lot of fear, a lot like, at least like rigid clients, there's a lot of like, yeah, look, that is scary, or that is nervous. I know it's it's stressful, huh? Just doing that can help. So I'm going to go to the chat here. I work in pre-K classrooms in a school district, and conscious discipline is part of our curriculum. Kind extinction is very similar to the conscious discipline program. All right. We focus a lot on co-regulation, validating emotions, and teaching coping skills. It has definitely changed my practice. Yes, our field has come so far. Nice. Thank you, Christy. And then Kristen Hubbard. I'm starting to find a balance with kind extinction and returning to HRE. Sorry, not sure what that means, but we can't have X, but we can have Y. When you use X, I see you using it this way. I just describe how they play. I know this toy isn't the same, but can I show you how the Play-Doh can do something similar to slime? Can I show you? Excuse me. And if you don't like it, we can, thank you, happy, relaxed, engaged, love it. Can I show you? And if you don't like it, we try to come up with something else. Love it. Working teamwork with the learner. Yes. And then Heather Garrett, one of my kiddos, types in no on his device and adds an exclamation point. Yeah. Advocate for yourself, little buddy. Nice. And then in Ukaru, a restraint-free crisis intervention program, we are trained to encourage them to hit the provided mats if they need to hit something to get the feelings out. Yes, Connie. Anger is an emotion, and it just is. It's not a bad emotion. It's just an emotion that can be let out and used for movement. Christina, in certain situations, I've been working with learners on compromise skills where we combine my idea and your idea. I've also seen this generalized from adults to social skills with siblings and parents too. Oh, I love that. Yeah, good compromising skills. And then Trisha Lee on the tacting. I like to tell people to live out loud and tack what they're doing, thinking, wondering, etc. Love that. I like that concept. And this can sometimes evoke a response that is assent or assent withdrawal. Nice. You can, yeah, you can definitely hear them since they're living out loud on whether or not they want to do something or not. Kelly, I work with adults in CILAs and have started training the staff to not be afraid to model coping skills when they're feeling frustrated. Group homes. Okay, yes, modeling coping skills. And that could be taking deep breaths. It could be exclaiming something out loud. Oh my gosh, I feel so frustrated about such and such and such and such. It could be difficult when you're dysregulated, right? The more practice that you do it, and the more our learners can see it in action. And they want to know what the heck's going on inside of them. So if we can model what has going on inside of us and live out loud, then even better. Okay, great. So now let's change gears and go into practicing this compassionate and life-changing skill. And this is something I can connect with ABA because we all know BST, right? Behavior skills training. You instruct, you model, you rehearse, and then you give feedback. And in this case, it's mental rehearsal. And I want to give you a couple studies on the effectiveness of mental rehearsal. I love that on the podcast that Dr. Megan and I was on with Dr. Megan, we talked about mental rehearsal and how even back in high school for me, my drum instructor said, hey, there's no talking on the bus. We're just going to mentally prepare. We're going to go through the show mentally, and that'll help us when it's time to actually do the show. Basketball players, there's studies on them. This one in particular is the piano players. Really neat study that involved brain scans as well, and how just mentally rehearsing a piano piece can help them with playing piano. Okay, now this one's a little more geared towards us. So nursing students using mental rehearsal to improve clinical performance. So this study developed, implemented, and evaluated an MR strategy for the assessment and management of deteriorating patients, a skill involving a more complex cognitive process resulting in decision making. So that to me is us. Like we have in the moment, we have complex cognitive processes happening when a crisis hits, the tantrum, whatever it may be, elopement, right? Acts of tangible as such, the use of mental rehearsal and training nursing students to respond to patient deterioration involves the creation of a more intricate mental imagery. The findings of the study corroborate those of other studies that have shown a significant improvement in performance after mental rehearsal intervention. So the conclusion, so patient deterioration is a stressful clinical event, much like we undergo, that year 3 nursing students need to manage during their transition to practice clinical placement. The implementation and evaluation of the mental rehearsal strategy was shown in the study to be effective in enhancing performance. And now I like to talk about Lisa Feldman-Barrett's understanding of emotions. She's a neuroscientist, and she has this really cool book, How Emotions Are Made. And so I want to let you know, during our mental rehearsal, we will be attempting to recategorize, which is what she says can be done, recategorize how you feel during moments that constitute using kind extinction. Okay. So what I mean by that is I want all of us to picture or put it or bring up a scenario that can be challenging for you when it comes to using kind extinction or using a compassion-based approach. And like right now, maybe you have a client, or even your child is doing, and you're kind of stuck. You don't know what to do because you want to do this, but somehow in the moment you're doing this instead. And so what Lisa Feldman Barrett says is, to master your emotions in situation, we want to recategorizing how you feel. Now, when I say how you feel, it's the physical sensations in the body, right? So when a child communicates with their behavior what they want, we can experience any number of affects due to interoceptive sensations, physical sensations in our bodies. I'm going to go over that in detail later. I think it's good to think about right now when you think about your child or your client in this scenario, to start becoming aware of physical sensations. So affect transforms interoceptive sensation into something about you. So again, we're going to go over this here in depth. So an example includes, you offer a child food, they say no. There could be a restriction in your neck, right? Some tenseness in your neck, some chest pain. Seeing red is something that I've come across parents feeling too, is like just angry, like so much so that they see red, and even like back pain, top of the neck. And so when you feel that physical sensation, right, the interoceptive sensations, this is how we can take these personal sensations personal. Like, I'm the adult. Hey, how dare you defy me? I can't even get this little person to do this. I can't do this. I'm unsupportive word. We all have our unsupportive words. I don't need to like that, put that out there, but I'm not loved. I'm unloved. I don't know what I'm doing and I should. Oh my gosh, what's wrong with me? Right? There's these kind of uh thoughts in our heads, either unconsciously or consciously, that get kind of triggered by that. So I had to draw this out. I know it's like looks like a third grader drew this, but this is me. Because I didn't want to like digitally do this. So again, like there's a no, right? Starting going from left to right, or being ignored, or there's a big tantrum, or loud yelling. And we have some sort of physical sensation. Some people's palms get sweaty. Some people's guts, they feel a tension in their gut. Their face flushes, right? Some sort of physical sensation. And awareness. Once we're aware of that, and then the thoughts that come with those physical sensations, there's a process that I'm going to go over here in a little bit that can help us with kind of alleviating that. And so, right, again, like, I'm a bad dad, I'm a bad RBT, I'm a bad BCBA. I can't believe my child saying no, my client's doing this, or I'm not loved, or I'm not respected, or I feel small, or I should be able to do this. What's wrong with me? Right, is kind of the overall kind of umbrella there. And then we could use, and then right now, right, we use traditional extinction, which is maybe ignoring because we don't want to shape up the behavior, or raise our voice because that makes us not feel small anymore, or join the chaos. All right, so now I'm going to take you down below there, the blue, which is the mental rehearsal part. So I'm just giving you what we're going to be doing here in a little bit with the mental rehearsal. So if you can, close your eyes. You don't have to do that now, but I'm going to ask you to close your eyes and think of the scenario. So kind of like pressing play on your internal movie projector, right? So whatever the target behavior is, the no, or being ignored, or some sort of big emotion from your learner, and feeling the sensation, right? Feeling that in your body. And then kind of moving it, the mental rehearsal, to they must be going through a hard time getting in a regulated space, because in the moment we're dysregulated, and the physical sensations in our bodies just automatically cause that dysregulation. And then we go to, you know, raising our voice, joining the chaos, basically. And so really through this mental rehearsal, it's continuing to stay in that space of love, is how I put it, that space of compassion. And you know, another thing that we can think of is, I wonder what they need right now to feel safe. You know, they can be dysregulated, and we can still feel regulated. Can't really see the bottom of that. And then after that, what do we want to do, right? So this is kind of our moment to authentically be ourselves. We can create, we can innovate different ways that we want to be while we're in this mental rehearsal. So validate their experience, have a sentence ready that's validating, get to their eye level, speak soft, slowly, with you know, with our tone of voice, offer physical touch, mirror their facial expressions. It looks like you are frustrated. It looks like you are mad. I understand. I would be too, buddy. So that this is just an example of when we do that mental rehearsal. All right. So then here we go with Lisa Feldman Barrett again. With practice, you can learn to deconstruct an affective feeling into its mere physical sensations, rather than letting those sensations be a filter through which you view the world. So just kind of going back to my little third grade drawings again. The behavior occurs, the physical sensations aren't as intense. That's why there's just tiny little like markers, like the kind of the pink markers, or the tension, the discomfort, right? And the more that we mentally rehearse it, and the more that we can breathe and be in a regulated space just through the mental rehearsal, when it is time to do it in the moment, right, to validate, use kind extinction, whatever compassion based approach you want to use, you're going to be way more likely to do it. And so yeah, all the purple stuff on the right there, you're modeling emotional intelligence, you know, boost of cooperation, communication, love, respect, compassion, and you're staying connected in the moment is really the juice here. All right, and so a note before we begin. I'm going to get to the comments here too in a little bit, but this meditation is designed to help you grow. Growth can sometimes feel uncomfortable. You may experience strong emotions or sensations as you reflect and reconnect with yourself. If anything feels overwhelming, know that you are in control. You can pause, you can breathe, or just step away, right? So be gentle with yourself. Remember, you're totally not alone in this journey. All right, now back to the chat. Heather says, I have a couple of kiddos that will just stand there and scream as loud as they can over and over. I have found it difficult to interact in this way, other than just sitting in a chair and waiting for them to calm. So that would be a really good instance right now of a really good scenario to work on, because we're in a safe space. You're going to be regulated, you know, once we get into that nice, calm and regulated space. And then Connie, I love the tagline on the website that says, so you have some, I love it. Okay. So now I'm going to go into the mental rehearsal, and, you know, if you can close your eyes, it does wonders with this. Because I'm going to ask you to focus on different parts of your body first to regulate, and then we'll go into the mental rehearsal. All right. So there is no music, unfortunately. Maybe I'll do that on my next one, but just imagine a nice, calm, peaceful scenery, maybe one of these here, and let's begin. So let's take a nice deep breath in. Sitting comfortably on whatever supporting surface you are on right now. Just get as comfortable as you can and put just all your weight into the supporting surface. I'm going to take a few deep breaths now. And let's go back to attending to the parasympathetic part of our brain, which is right in the back of our neck. I'm going to breathe into that space. Sinking deeper into your chair. And now I'd like you to rest your attention on your heart. If you feel like resting your attention on your heart, feel free to do so. And breathe a nice big deep breath into your heart. Acknowledge its presence. Feel free to express gratitude for your heart. And really just sink into that nice regulated state of being. And if your heart can emanate a light, a certain color light that can be symbolic of love, of compassion, of empathy, what colored light would that be? And now imagine that light emanating brighter and brighter from your heart. Beautiful. And now I'd like you to bring up the scenario that came up and what was a challenging scenario for you with your child, with your learner, and really take note of the sensations that come up in your body, any images that pop up, any feelings that you're feeling right now, and any thoughts that come to mind. So first, physical sensations. Just be with them right now. Just know that they're there for protection. Know that they're there out of love. Acknowledge these physical sensations. Good. And now press play on your video and go to when your learner, your young one, is engaging in the behavior that's challenging for you at this time. Continuing to be aware of your physical sensations. Okay, now that you're aware of the physical sensations, we're going to go back into the regulated space. So let's take deep breaths and breathe into those physical sensations that need a little bit of TLC, that need a little bit of your acknowledgement. I need some gratitude as well from you. There's a lot of healing and a lot of good compassion that can come from just the acknowledgement of these physical sensations, embracing these physical sensations, right? So breathing into them, knowing that they're there out of love, and just listening to any messages that they may come with. You can also be fully aware of them more by, like what color is this sensation? If this sensation had a cartoon character or a character of some sort that you can really connect with, what character is this sensation? Is there a facial expression that comes with this sensation? Just really illuminating as much as you can. And take a nice deep breath in. Release. And now look back or rescan, do a scan of your body. Maybe the sensation moved. Maybe it's not there anymore. Maybe it's become more intense. Just take note of it. Again, acknowledge its presence and breathe. And a very slow exhale. Beautiful. Now we're going to go back to the scenario and go press play on it to when your learner, your young one, engages in the behavior that's challenging. And just take note of any physical sensations that come up, whether they be different, the same, less intense, more intense. And go to those physical sensations in your mind and focus on them and imagine them opening. Imagine them expanding. And that light that came from your heart earlier, emanate that light onto these physical sensations, giving them the love, the understanding. That it might need at this time. And breathe whenever you feel like you need to take a nice deep breath in and a nice slow release on the exhale. Again, moving that light to those physical sensations and opening and expanding them. Taking note of any images that can come up, any thoughts or sounds, and any feelings that arise. Knowing all full well that there are no bad parts. They're all good. They're all there for a reason. And they're here out of love. Let's now take a nice deep breath in. Oh, and one nice long release. Now from this space, think about and really express and innovate a response out of love, right? From empathy, from compassion, from this light that's emanating outward. What response comes to mind to your learner's behavior? Take a nice deep breath in. And release nice and long. Now that there's more empathy, there's more love and understanding within our bodies. What response comes from love, empathy, and compassion? And take a nice deep breath in. Oh, slow exhale. Now I'd like you to take a body scan to see if there's any difference in your body at this time. If there's any physical sensations that are more open, more constricting, right? More maybe discomforting or comforting. Just take a full inventory. Get a nice deep breath in. And exhale. Beautiful. Now we're going to go back to the beginning of your child's or learner's experience and challenging behavior. Just notice, again, your physical sensations, images that pop up. We're going to press play. So the challenging behavior has begun, and we respond with, you could physically do it. That always helps, doing a bottom up kind of intervention or procedure, bottom up from the body, doing some sort of physical gesture, stooping down to their level, offering physical hugs, however that may look like gesturally or from your body. And then we'll do think of a top down mental intervention or response, right? From kindness, from love. And what can we say to ourselves that can be most beneficial to our connection and the safety of our learner and ours as well? So now that you've done it once, let's go ahead and go back and rehearse it again. So go to the beginning of when your learner engages in challenging behavior. And take note of any physical sensations. Maybe the discomfort is gone. Maybe it's still there. It's good to take note and respond as you would like to from your values, who you are. Take a nice deep breath in. Oh, and release. Now we're going to do one last mental rehearsal, and it's going to be quick. So we're going to go with the challenging behavior. Press play. To the response. Bottom up, top down. Beautiful. Now let's take a nice deep breath in. Oh, nice long exhale. We're going to take one more deep breath in. Wiggling your fingers. Wiggling your toes. And when you're ready, open up your eyes. Thank you all for joining me and doing this mental rehearsal. I went ahead and put the instructions here. We don't really need to go over that now. Now I'm more interested in reflection time. My first go-to question, what is the first thing that you notice? So feel free to unmute. Feel free to write it in the chat. What is the first thing you notice right now? For me, it's an openness in my chest. It's a, I don't know, more calm tone of voice. People that I've done this with prior, they notice like a change in coloring with their kind of mental rehearsal or the mental imagery, the physical sensations that they first had may have dissipated now, or they may have moved. So here we go. Calm, even breathing, slow heart rate, heart not beating as fast, a calm acceptance, calm feeling all over. I usually shake a leg constantly. I didn't the entire time. Oh, thanks, Atel. So really, for me, being aware, mindful of like my heart, my neck can get tense, my shoulders as well. That's kind of for me. Sometimes in the gut, a little tinge. And I know I'm talking to a bunch of BCBAs, and this is like way off the rails, but I really want to know physical sensations. What did you start with? What maybe a form of discomfort or tenseness, or did you not feel anything at all? Like that's totally I totally understand that too. That's totally an answer as well. Was it all in the mind? Um, yeah, any anybody want to let me know about that? Okay, yeah, I thought. So this is one kind of go-to that I go to. Okay. It's really hard to teach tacting sensation if we don't practice. Yes, it's very true. Yeah, this is a good practice when it comes to like somatic sensory responses. Are there any physical sensations, thoughts, or images that were particularly interesting? I know we're in a group setting, so you don't need to share, but I always find that this is an interesting conversation that can kind of guide further integration, so to speak, or healing, or whatever you want to call it. Again, I know this is behaviorism and this is ABA, but getting into different modalities, it's been very awesome for me to try to integrate it all, because there's caretakers that, right, parents, BCBAs, RBTs that kind of go into their default mode, and sometimes that's not the most beneficial to our learners. And so to go through the physical sensations, because that's first what happens before thoughts even come, before our behaviors can be there. All right, so yeah, what are your thoughts on doing mental rehearsal? I'm really interested in like what BCBAs think of this. Yes, please. Any feedback on that?
While we're waiting for folks to chime in, one of the things that I've like had struggled with, you were talking about like the noticing your own sensations. So I'm curious, Jared, I know it's not entirely the focus of today's webinar, but when you're doing the mental rehearsal, if you've done any shaping with folks on all of that. So like there's like this assumption that we're going to notice what's happening in our body, but for some people they don't. So like shaping, you know, being able to check in on that, or shaping even the process, because I think a lot of behavior analysts, when they first see guided meditations or activities like this being done, they're like, this is not part of our field, even though there's research that supports it's behavioral and it is, and it's effective. But have you
Yeah.
noticed any sort of like shaping for people that might be a little resistant that works well?
Yes, gosh, I can include myself on that, right? Like when I first started doing this, I didn't know physical sensations, what, right? Like how? And, you know, it really came with the prompt of, hey, you have physical sensations in your body. It's just about a matter of being aware of it and kind of dusting the clouds off. I would say the interoceptive sensations of like tightening, right, a muscle or even your stomach, or like tightening your chest and then releasing it out, just to like having more control of the physical sensation, or even like, you know, for me, my neck can get tense, so like having someone tense their neck up and practicing that, what that feels like, and then what it feels like without tension. um you know, I mean, people sweating, right? Like, you know, in the moment sweats, even just mentally rehearsing it brings those same sensations up. And so, like, first off, I think being aware that is a science, that is something that, it's a covert behavior, right? If you want to get down to behaviorism, it is covert. And just having the awareness and the knowledge of like, hey, this is how emotions to our behaviors, to our thoughts, this is the process. And you know, I would love for there to be a study on the effect of it on our nervous system. So HRV, heart rate variability. We have wearables now, right? We have like little, I don't know, brain kind of contraptions that can record this overt behavior and quantify it, to so we can say, hey, you know, this mental rehearsal technique works, or hey, this, um like being able to do it in a safe space like this, when it comes to going into the situation, right, of the challenging behavior, and pressing play, so to speak, and like like measuring all that data would be like super eye-opening to our field in general. And I think that's like the next frontier. And we've got a lot of good comments here. All right, so I'm gonna go back. Does that answer your question, Megan? Kind of like the shaping of.
Yeah.
Okay,
Yep. Thank you.
nice.
And that's just something
Yeah,
like I'd encourage folks to reflect on if you're thinking about using this with your staff or with parents and wanting to learn more about it, that you might need to do some initial conversation and kind of get a feel for people's openness or resistance to activities like this before you just jump right in and start like trying to guide them through something.
definitely. Yeah, and yeah, you know, there's some tender emotions that can come up from doing exercises like this, and uh, there's a time and a place for that, right? And I feel that it's and now I feel crying is like the best thing that I can do for myself. Like, to be honest, as a guy, to say that, I mean, I've had 30 some odd years of thinking like, no, 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 I don't want to do that. And now that I'm like, oh, I've kind of given into that and accepted like, wow, this does wonders to my body, my thoughts, like a lot. It just gets the weight off, and then it creates more space for, I like to call it love, more empathy, more thoughts that are beneficial for me and others around me. All right, so I'm going to start with Megan DeBoom. I love that last name. It's so cool. I recognize now that I separate the sensations and affect when I'm with my learners, but that is really hard to do with my own kid. Gotcha. Yeah. Would you like to expand on that, Megan? I think that's really a good,
Yeah.
yeah. Mhm.
Yeah, so I have a history of working with individuals with very intensive behavioral needs and a lot of challenging behavior. And I find, for whatever reason, it's a lot. I mean, I know there's probably a lot of reasons, but it's a lot
Mhm.
easier for me to separate like that rapid heart rate and quick breathing and all of that whenever I am with someone else's child. But then if my kid, he has ADHD and some other stuff going on, the minute he does something similar at home, I really notice that my physical sensations and that kind of spikes. And then I don't always respond in the way that I want to. And that's so
Mhm.
frustrating because I'm like, I know how to do this, but it's so different when it's your own kid. But I think that is really important to recognize too when we're working with caregivers, like no one pushes your buttons like your own child. Like,
Right.
because a lot of caregivers are like, you stay so calm when my kid's having a crisis. And I'm like, because it's not my kid. Like, I get to leave.
Yeah.
You have to take them home. And
Hmm.
so I
Hmm.
just think that's really important. A question that I had for you though, too.
Yeah.
So as far as like the meditation goes and like kind of unhooking the physical sensations from like your response, do you
Yeah.
ever work with caregivers to like cultivate a different physical or emotional sensation? Like, do you ever have them imagine like that, like, okay, you want to stay calm while you do this? Do you ever do that instead of like having them unhook, but more of like manifesting, like, this is the sensation or emotion I want to feel during a similar
Yeah.
experience?
Yeah. So, during this, I kept coming back to the regulation. I wanted right, deep breathing and
Mm-hmm.
emanating that space from the heart can really get someone back into that regulated state. And to me, that's like parenting from love, right? That's
Mm-hmm.
connecting out from love. And so the more that I can get them into that space of not only just love, but creativity, innovation, quick decision making skills. There's a lot of there's like 6 different kind of verbs you can use that resonate with this feeling. So I always kind of I let them. We're in a group setting, so it's really hard to like kind of guide. And I'm just doing a general thing here,
Mm-hmm.
and usually I would be way more attuned. And if
Gotcha.
I felt like they needed a little bit more
Mm-hmm.
guidance into the space from love, then I would kind of do that and get them into, it's called like anchoring too, anchoring
Mm-hmm.
that love
Yeah.
kind of feeling in their body. And then one thing that I like to do also is from that regulated space, having a gesture that they can use, that hand over the heart, or it could be super
Mm-hmm.
incognito, like 2 fingers together or rubbing, just so that like physical behavior, that kind of
Mm-hmm.
bottom up uh, gesture can help with uh, activating this like space from love.
Gotcha.
So
Gotcha. So it
and
sounds, oh, sorry.
yeah. Oh, sorry. So yeah. So some parents think like confidence. I want to be more confident in this, or I
Mm-hmm.
want to be more peaceful. I want to be jovial. I want to be playful in this. So it really depends on the values.
Gotcha.
Um, yeah.
So it sounds like you're more responsive to like what works for the
Oh
individual
yeah.
caregiver.
Individualized,
Awesome.
100%. Yeah.
Cool.
Yeah.
Thank
Thanks
you.
for the. Yeah, definitely. Thanks for the question. And then, Krisha Lee, we got. It seems like the competing behavior model for our own behaviors, private and public. Trisha Lee, are you able to expand on that? It seems like the competing behavior model for our own behaviors, private and public. I'm not sure what that is. Megan, do you know? Competing behavior model?
I think
Oh, Trisha Lee.
it's based
She is.
on, sorry, I don't know my mic working. Yeah. It's
That's cool.
like again, I'm just imagining like the 3-term contingency and like the competing behavior model from the like FAI literature, like, or I can't remember, but just like here's the situation, here's my behavior or my thoughts and feelings, and here's the outcome. And if I want a different path, I'm gonna pick imagine myself or have that mental rehearsal of doing a different behavior and getting a different outcome. So
Yeah, I think the missing piece there is in a regulated space, right? In a space of, I just call it love because that's what it is. In a space that's regulated, where you feel more open, you feel like the heart rate is slow, right? Nice and calm, because that's where those connective ideas are going to come from. Those compassion based actions are going to come from. And the more that we can do it, like we did it 3 times, today, the more that we can role play and rehearse it, the more, and the physical sensations, that's really the key as well. Kind of dissipate, or even just the awareness of them too can help. And if you weren't able to be aware of them today, then that's fine, because you could do a top down behavior when it comes to thoughts, right? The different phrases you can say, or different gestures that you can connect to this feeling. So yeah, that's one thing I just needed to add. Thank you, Trisha Lee. Jaden, I can see how it can definitely help parents slash caregivers if there was a recording or something for them to listen to on their own time. That would be really neat. Not sure if anyone knows if that already exists for families with children with challenging behaviors. Nice. Jaden, so I have a three different meditations. They're all different lengths, because the more I do this, the more I get in feedback like, oh my gosh, wow, this is helping, this is supporting, right, my goals. So I have I think like an 8 minute, I don't know, like 15, and then a 25 minute, and it goes over, like 25 minute goes over what I just did, um, in a recording. So I have that. I'd love to send it to you if you're interested in something like that. Yeah, thank you for asking. All right, so pushing play the first time, I felt my hands get warm. Thank you. My chest tightened up. Okay, yeah, and I felt like I held my breath. I've noticed lately when I'm in the thick of a behavior, I hold my breath, and I've been working on breathing. Nice. Even just to let myself know my needs are a priority. Yes, I think I hold my breath to prioritize them getting through it, like a serving response. I'm here with you, and I'm secondary to your needs. But breathing through a behavior helps ground me and be actively available. Beautiful, uh, awareness of your body, of your sensations that are accompanying that, and then what to do with that information, right? To breathe, to connect, like I said earlier, a gesture, to connect to this place of love, a mantra, so to speak, that you can tell yourself. That's another top down way to do it, and a top down approach that can help, right? A tool, top down tool or skill. Jaden, also there's a free app called How We Feel. Oh, sweet. It allows you to do emotion check-ins and to identify physical sensations in your body that I find to be helpful with my own kids. All right. Thanks, Jaden. Yeah, I love doing reflective supervision for just this reason. Okay, so Heather, I think starting with short periods of time for myself at least is helpful. So I had to stop trying to do reflective yoga because my brain starts going wild with long periods of reflection. Area of weakness for sure. Thank you for that comment. And I worked with a kiddo to notice their heart rate, typically blunted affect and less crying, by listening to heart rate audio clips and their own heartbeat. Ah, yes, I love it. Feedback, right? Neurofeedback, heartbeat after resting / breathing and jumping around so we can learn how to tact and associate the difference. I love it. Yeah, that's the next step, huh? It's evolutionary. All right, Tara, there is an interoception curriculum from an OT to teach this to learners, and I would think similar exercises with an interventionist / parent / teacher, etc., would be helpful to increase awareness of bodily sensations. Thank you, Tara. Yes, that works wonders. Like, again, kiddos want to know what is going on, because I think a lot of us as adults, we find that through a survival mechanism, like shutting down our body and doing something like cognitively, kind of a cognitive little spin for our own survival has been helpful. And a lot of our, I would probably suggest, well, a lot of our little learners, right, our young ones, they're in tune with their body so much, and like to help them out with that is such a life-changing life skill. All right, cool, good comments. Drive for survival, keep the child quiet so the predators don't get us. Yes, Megan, I love it. Yeah. So Megan said, do you think if I tell my kid to be quiet because the predators are going to get us, he will stop? Oh gosh, I love it. Okay, cool. And then Jaden, I can see how it can definitely help parents / caregivers. If there was a recording or something. Oh, my bad. Okay, I already talked about that. Oh, sweet. Yes. And I'd love to give that to Megan, the recordings, insight timer. If you read the book Lifting Heavy Things about trauma work, the author mentions doing playful and active things like walking on a balance beam or passing a tennis ball back and forth over the midline to help regulate as it pulls the brain back out of fight or flight. Great tools. I love it. Thank you, Kyrian Gray. So, one thing that I like to do before we have to say our goodbyes is go back, since we have the time, go back into that state that we a regulated state, and then think of a gesture that you want to do. It could be hand over the heart, it could be finger to neck, or even crossed fingers. Just think of something that in the moment would be a good gesture for you to and kind of activate or engage in. That way, not only just deep breathing, because that can also be difficult, but just more tools in our tool chest basically is kind of what I'm going for here. So let's go ahead and go back into the meditative state and close our eyes, take a nice deep breath in. Oh, and release. And another way for me to regulate that I've used before quickly is to put my attention on my fingers and like rub 2 fingers together nice and gently, to just rubbing the tops of each and noticing the ripples, the kind of fingerprints, so to speak, and just really focusing on that and noticing the temperature, the texture, nice and lightly and gently. Take a nice deep breath in and out. And now resting your attention on your toes and wiggling your toes. Noticing again the temperature, what it feels like. breathing all the way into your toes. And now let's go back to that scenario again, the challenging behavior. Notice any physical sensations, images, thoughts that come up now. Take a nice deep breath in and out. Really activating this compassion core of all of us, this love-based part we all have. And now think of a gesture that you can do with your body that you'd like to connect with this sensation, feeling regulated, nice and safe, peaceful, confident, whatever value may be, or whatever state of being you'd like to protrude. Yeah, go ahead and do the gesture and continue to do this gesture while breathing deeply. Oh, okay. And now I'd like to go ahead and break state. So one last deep breath in, wiggle your fingers, wiggle your toes. Open your eyes when you're ready. And then now with opened eyes, mentally rehearse going back to this situation, going back to the same setting, maybe the same smells that occur in this scenario, and imagining the scenario to play with the challenging behavior, and then doing the gesture and activating this part of us that comes from empathy, love, and understanding. Taking a nice deep breath in, so it's nice and anchored and connected. Pairing this gesture with this feeling in your body, right? Okay, so now that we've got a gesture and we've got the sensation, are there any thoughts that come to mind? That's one thing that we haven't really spoken about yet on the reflection time. And then discussion and Q&A time right now. But I'm curious as to any thoughts that come up, or maybe like what thoughts used to come up, because I know that's when I'm dysregulated, is when I start thinking bad thoughts on the other person, right? Whatever it may be. That's when I'm like, all right, something's off. Let's take a moment, bud. To myself. So if there's any thoughts that did occur, or any images that occurred, that's also a fascinating covert behavior of ours, is our imagination can run wild with this work. And kind of dipping into more Jungian, so less behavioral talk here. Our imagination is kind of the gateway to our conscious as well. So the more that we have an image or sounds too, I've noticed that I'm not as much of a visual or imaginary, like visually, but sounds come up easier for me, as well as kinesthetic, right? So the body, there's any changes in the body itself. Thank you very much for your comment as to what you were feeling and before, and then what you're feeling now. I appreciate that. And the more that we do this work, it's amazing what kind of habits we can undo and unprogram. So yeah, any other, okay, cool. Here we go. Green gray. It can be really hard to break out of a toxic productivity way of thinking and not return to that. Ooh, can you expand on that if you're able to, by chance?
Sure. You can just call me B, by the way.
Okay, cool.
Just
Thanks, B.
B. Um, so I think there is a lot of pressure when you're in session or you're doing supervision of, okay, great, we've got to get this kid regulated because we've got to hit all
Yeah,
of these targets. We've got to take our data. We've got to do these things.
definitely.
And we know that, our stakeholders and our funders really want to see all of that and don't really see our services relevant when they're not getting those pieces. And it's really difficult sometimes to describe, like, hey, our graph may look like this,
Mhm.
but what we're really getting at is we may not have seen a ton of difference this time, but the child was responding in a way that may not have been captured by our data. Like maybe they were attentive to us modeling regulation strategies when they weren't previously, or they didn't try to get up and walk away. And I know, at least for myself, sometimes it can be really difficult not to go back to that way of thinking of, oh, but now that we're good, I have to make sure that we're getting these things done when really the work is still happening. Or I have to go back and think, did I have a behavioral parameter that captured the progress in a way that my funder will think it's beneficial? Um, and I hate spending time thinking of that when I'd rather be thinking of progress and like quality of life. But
Mhm.
when people that we're working with are actually receptive and like, oh, I don't want to run away from you, or I don't want to stay in crisis, or I want to sit here with you and just be comfortable but not talk. Like that is progress. That is working toward where we need to be, even though it's really difficult to express the gravity of that sometimes in a graph.
Right. Yeah, to quantify these behaviors of compassionate behaviors, right? Like I kind of showed a little bit of what my data sheet looks like, and that it would be like pluses or for the kind of assessment of do deep breathing cues, does that really help them, right? Actually de-escalate a little bit more, or kind of quantify the consequence that we're using, the compassion based approaches that we're using. And I mean, it goes into you got to feel safe to learn, right? You have to feel like this person gives a hoot about you to learn, and for there to be a good back and forth with the learner child and uh the adult. So yeah, thank you, B. I know I had that too. I'm definitely like a go, 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 go. Like let's just get it all done. Let's go. What I can't deal with this be like this is, time that we need to do uh deep gosh learning, right? This is time that we need to learn. When really in actuality those behaviors are they're learning their own emotions. They're learning that they can count on an adult to give them the safe space that they need at that time. So but yeah, it can be tough to quantify. All right, so are any questions, any discussion at this time? um Thank you all. I gotta say, this has been an amazing experience. It's been a dream of mine, and I'm looking forward to more because I really feel the participation. I really feel the compassion, and yeah. Thank you so much, Dr. Megan, for bringing us all together. Yeah, this has been a really neat experience,
You
and
are
I'm glad. NLP and all these different kind of avenues can help with implementing a more compassionate ABA. And this would be great. Love to see compassionate ABA. Yay, Christy. You got it. Dream. Oh, BCBA and yoga teacher. Sweet. Thank you so much for your work in this event. Such important work. Very much so, Keely. All right. Yeah. Thank you. You got it. Thank you, Tammy. Thank you, Christina. Please feel free to ask any questions, or if there's a discussion that you'd like to start.
And we'll probably do some follow-up. I know sometimes when it's like a newer topic, it's, you're just sort of chewing on and processing the information. So we absolutely love having Jared here to model for us the strategy of practicing these new methods, because a lot of people are reading articles or maybe attending webinars and trainings that we're doing, but having that, mental rehearsal and really seeing what comes up for you is a whole new way, especially for training staff too. So I'm not an expert on it, but I love participating. And anytime I've had the opportunity to do something like this, I feel like I have a much better handle on whatever it is that I'm setting out to do. So we really appreciate, Jared, you sharing that expertise with us.
Yes, thank you so much for being open to do this. I always feel like a rebel, or like I'm totally outside the box and doing woo-woo stuff. And someone's gonna be like, this guy's not a real BCBA. What is he talking about? This nonsense somatic stuff for? But it's again, it's their own science, right? Like Lisa Feldman Barrett, I was able to bring that in. There's a lot of cool neuroscience that is somewhat new for me, at least, and especially in our field, that we can now implement and integrate with the quantification of behavior as well. Like that's to me that the new frontier, is kind of the wearables, and seeing how that actually does affect our nervous system.
Yeah. And people have heard me say this before, so I'll try to keep it short. But at some point, hopefully while I'm still alive, we will see that the field will have a full reckoning with the fact that knowing about these things, the neuroscience aspect, the emotional regulation, being able to engage in the rehearsal, the wearables, like all of these things that many of us are starting to synthesize and are open to incorporating, that is behavior analysis, and it's the most comprehensive and effective way. If you try to understand behavior without including any of those variables, you're not getting the full picture. And it's time. I mean, Steve Hayes talked about it in the early 2000s and probably before that. And people from indigenous cultures have been talking about it for probably thousands of years. So at some point, there needs to be a full acceptance of that. And there's people paving that way for us. And I'm really excited to see more and more folks being open to learning how we can synthesize and maintain a behaviorist lens. And I'm really excited to see that point when it's like, oh yeah. And we look back and go, how did we ever think we could address behavior without knowing this stuff,
Nope. Yeah. A lot of covert things that we don't kind of prescribe to or connect with behaviorism, but it's there. It's real. Yep.
All right. Well, thank you so much for presenting for us today. If anyone does have any additional questions or thoughts, feel free to reach out to me or Jared. I don't know if you want to put your email in the chat, if you want folks to reach out to you.
Definitely. Yeah. Well, I have my information. There we go. Oops.
There we go. Perfect. So if you have any questions for Jared, or you want to follow him or check out more about the work that he's doing with Parent from Love, definitely check that out as well.
Yeah. Thank you so much, Megan. Thank you, everybody. Hopefully we'll cross paths soon again.